Stop everything you are doing right now. And I want you to do something. Take off your shoe and sock. Right foot. Close your eyes. Reach down and touch your big toe with one finger. Do you feel it? Not just pressure, but the specific quality of touch, the texture of your fingertip against your toe, the temperature difference. Now walk 10 steps barefoot on your floor. Can you feel the surface? Can you feel the difference between carpet and tile? Or does the floor feel distant, muted, as though you are walking on someone else's feet through a layer of insulation? If your feet feel wrapped in cotton wool, if the sensation is reduced, muted, delayed, or entirely absent in some areas, you are experiencing peripheral neuropathy, the progressive loss of sensation in the feet and lower legs that affects over 30% of adults over 70, and that your physician may have told you is irreversible, is simply what happens to nerves with age, and is something you should learn to manage rather than expect to improve. Your physician may be wrong about the irreversibility. Not in every case. Some peripheral nerve damage is advanced beyond the reach of dietary intervention, but in many cases, particularly where the primary drivers are specific nutritional deficiencies and metabolic factors that are correctable, the nerve's capacity for remyelination and functional recovery is substantially greater than standard clinical management assumes. The drink I am about to show you addresses the 3 primary mechanisms of peripheral neuropathy in adults over 70. It provides the specific B vitamins required for myelin synthesis and nerve conduction. It provides the antioxidants that reduce the oxidative stress-destroying peripheral nerve myelin, and it provides the circulatory compounds that restore the microvascular blood flow to peripheral nerves that has been compromised by diabetes, arterial stiffening, and the age-related microvascular changes that starve nerves of the oxygen and nutrients they need to maintain their function. Walter is 73 years old. His leg and foot numbness had been progressing for 4 years. He could not feel his toes. He described walking as feeling like wearing thick wool socks that he could not remove, a sense of distance between his feet and the world they were moving through. He had nearly fallen twice, once on stairs, once stepping off a curb, because his feet were not providing the sensory feedback needed for safe balance and proprioception. He drank this every morning for 21 days. His neurologist performed repeat nerve conduction studies at his follow-up appointment. She compared the results to the studies from 1 year prior. She said, "Your peripheral nerve function has measurably improved. This doesn't happen without intervention. What did you change?" Walter told her about the drink. She asked for the research. He had printed 3 papers. He handed them over. "Walter came to me 8 months ago, referred by his cardiologist who had been managing his type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular risk factors for 12 years, and who had, to his credit, told Walter directly that the neuropathy management his neurologist was providing, which consisted of gabapentin for the pain component and periodic monitoring, was not addressing the mechanisms producing the neuropathy, and that he should seek additional input." Walter was 73. His peripheral neuropathy had been diagnosed at 69, following a nerve conduction study that his neurologist had ordered when Walter presented with progressive bilateral foot numbness that had been developing over approximately 18 months. The study had shown reduced sensory nerve conduction velocities in the sural and superficial peroneal nerves bilaterally, consistent with a length-dependent sensoromotor peripheral neuropathy of the pattern typical in diabetic and metabolic neuropathy. His HbA1c at the time of neuropathy diagnosis was 7.8%, moderately elevated, consistent with poorly controlled type 2 diabetes. His neurologist had communicated the diagnosis, discussed gabapentin for the tingling discomfort that accompanied the numbness, and recommended good blood sugar control as the primary intervention for preventing progression. Over the following 4 years, his blood sugar control had improved, with his HbA1c stabilizing at approximately 7.2%. His neurologist had described this as adequate glycemic control and had noted at each annual visit that his neuropathy was stable. Stable in the sense that it was not dramatically worsening, but not improving. The numbness had progressed during the initial period before blood sugar control improved and had not recovered since. Walter described the functional impact with quiet precision. He could not feel his toes. He could not feel the floor through the soles of his feet. He relied on visual confirmation of foot placement for walking rather than proprioceptive feedback. He had reduced his activity significantly. He no longer walked in the garden in the evening, which he had done every day for 30 years. Because the combination of uneven ground and reduced foot sensation made him feel unsafe. He had been told, by his neurologist, by his cardiologist, by his primary care physician, that peripheral neuropathy from diabetes does not significantly reverse, that the nerve damage is established, and the management goal is to prevent further progression rather than achieve recovery. This was presented to him as a clinical fact rather than a probabilistic statement about a range of possible outcomes. I told him the full picture. The statement was approximately true for advanced neuropathy with substantial axonal loss. The structural damage of late-stage neuropathy is not reversible with dietary intervention. But Walter's nerve conduction studies showed demyelinating changes alongside axonal loss, meaning a significant component of his functional impairment was from myelin damage rather than axon death. Myelin is regenerable. Peripheral nerve Schwann cells, the cells responsible for producing myelin, are among the most regeneratively capable cells in the nervous system. Given the right nutritional inputs, they remyelinate damaged axons. I gave him the drink. I told him 21 days. The three mechanisms that converge to produce the peripheral numbness affecting 30% of adults over 70, and why addressing all three simultaneously produces results that addressing anyone alone cannot achieve. Mechanism 1. B vitamin deficiency and myelin degradation. The myelin sheath, the lipid protein insulating layer that surrounds peripheral nerve axons and enables rapid, efficient nerve signal conduction, is continuously synthesized and maintained by Schwann cells in peripheral nerves. This synthesis requires specific B vitamins as cofactors. Vitamin B12, methylcobalamin specifically, is the most critical. Methylcobalamin is a required cofactor for methionine synthase, the enzyme that methylates homocysteine back to methionine. Methionine is the precursor to S-adenosilmethionine, SAM, the universal methyl donor in the body. SAM provides the methyl groups required for myelin basic protein synthesis and for the methylation of phospholipids that form the myelin membrane. B12 deficiency, which affects approximately 20% of adults over 70 due to reduced intrinsic factor production, proton pump inhibitor use, and the reduced gastric acid production that impairs B12 absorption from food, produces demyelination directly through SAM deficiency. Vitamin B6, pyridoxine, is required for the synthesis of sphingomyelin, the primary phospholipid component of the myelin sheath. B6 is also required for the production of the neurotrophic factors, BDNF and NGF, that Schwann cells use for axonal repair signaling. Vitamin B1, thiamine, is required for the pyruvate dehydrogenase complex in nerve mitochondria, the enzyme system that converts pyruvate to acetyl-CoA for entry into the citric acid cycle. Peripheral nerve axons have extremely high energy requirements. They are among the longest cells in the body, and maintaining the ion gradients that enable nerve conduction requires continuous ATP production along the entire axon length. Thiamine deficiency impairs nerve energy metabolism, producing the energy deficit neuropathy that presents as length-dependent numbness. Worst in the feet because they are furthest from the cell body and have the longest axons to supply. Mechanism 2. Oxidative stress and peripheral nerve damage. Advanced glycation end products, the products of glucose reacting with proteins, accumulate in peripheral nerve tissue in diabetes and in adults with high normal blood glucose. Ages in nerve tissue directly damage the Schwann cells responsible for myelin maintenance, damage the mitochondria that generate the ATP nerve axons require, and activate NF-κB in endoneurial cells, driving the inflammatory cytokine production that further damages nerve fibers. Peripheral nerve tissue is particularly vulnerable to oxidative stress because it has high metabolic activity and limited antioxidant capacity. Alpha-lipoic acid, the mitochondrial antioxidant that is water and fat soluble, allowing it to access both the aqueous and lipid components of nerve tissue, is the specific antioxidant with documented activity in peripheral neuropathy. Multiple randomized controlled trials have documented alpha-lipoic acid's effectiveness in reducing neuropathic symptoms and improving nerve conduction in diabetic peripheral neuropathy. Mechanism 3. Endoneurial microvascular ischemia. The peripheral nerve endoneurium, the connective tissue space surrounding individual nerve fibers, is supplied by small arterioles and capillaries that are among the earliest vascular beds to be affected by diabetic microvascular disease, arterial stiffening, and the age-related reduction in nitric oxide production that impairs vasodilation. When endoneurial blood flow is reduced, the nerve fibers receive inadequate oxygen and glucose for their energy metabolism. Intermittent endoneurial ischemia, repeated brief periods of inadequate blood flow, produces the oxidative stress bursts that damage myelin and trigger axonal dieback. Restoring endoneurial microvascular perfusion through nitric oxide-enhancing compounds and microcirculation improving dietary factors is therefore a therapeutic target alongside the B vitamin and antioxidant mechanisms. The drink contains 3 primary active ingredients, each targeting one of the 3 mechanisms. Ingredient 1, beet juice with alpha-lipoic acid, 150 milliliters of cold-pressed beetroot juice combined with 600 milligrams of alpha-lipoic acid powder. Beetroot juice addresses the endoneurial microvascular ischemia mechanism. Its high dietary nitrate content, approximately 250 milligrams of nitrate per 100 milliliters, is reduced by oral bacteria in the mouth to nitrite, which is then converted to nitric oxide in the stomach and absorbed into the circulation. Nitric oxide is the primary vasodilator in small blood vessels, including the endoneurial arterioles. In peripheral neuropathy, the endoneurial arterioles are in a state of relative vasoconstriction from reduced endothelial nitric oxide production. Dietary nitrate from beetroot juice restores nitric oxide availability in the endoneurial vasculature, improving blood flow to the nerve fibers. A study published in the journal Free Radical Biology and Medicine documented that dietary nitrate supplementation significantly improved peripheral nerve blood flow parameters in adults with peripheral vascular disease, producing measurable increases in nerve oxygen saturation within the endoneurium. Alpha-lipoic acid addresses the oxidative stress mechanism. Alpha-lipoic acid is unique among antioxidants in being both water and fat-soluble, allowing it to neutralize reactive oxygen species in both the aqueous cytoplasm and the lipid membrane environments of peripheral nerve cells. It also regenerates other antioxidants, vitamin E, vitamin C, and glutathione, multiplying its antioxidant effect through the antioxidant network. At 600 milligrams per day, the dose used in the Sydney 2 trial, the definitive randomized controlled trial of alpha-lipoic acid in diabetic peripheral neuropathy, ALA significantly reduced total symptom score including numbness, tingling, burning, and stabbing pain. Crucially, the Sydney 2 trial showed improvement in objective nerve function measures, not just symptom relief, confirming that ALA was producing actual nerve repair rather than simply masking symptoms. Ingredient 2, methylcobalamin B12 and activated B complex. 1,000 micrograms of methylcobalamin dissolved in the drink, combined with a B complex providing B1, B6, and folate. Methylcobalamin specifically, not cyanocobalamin, the form in most supplements, is required for this application. Cyanocobalamin must be converted by the body first to hydroxocobalamin and then to methylcobalamin before it can serve as a cofactor for methionine synthase and SAM production. In adults over 70 with declining metabolic enzyme activity, this conversion is often incomplete. Methylcobalamin provides the active form directly, bypassing the conversion requirement. 1,000 micrograms of methylcobalamin per day, the dose used in Japanese clinical trials documenting peripheral neuropathy improvement, produces serum B12 levels substantially above the reference range, ensuring that the tissue concentration in nerve Schwann cells and axons is adequate for optimal myelin synthesis activity. The B1 and B6 in the B complex address the energy metabolism and sphingomyelin synthesis mechanisms. The folate is included because folate and B12 work together in the 1-carbon metabolism pathway. Folate deficiency impairs the methionine cycle even when B12 is adequate. Ingredient 3, lion's mane mushroom extract. 500 milligrams of standardized lion's mane, Hericium erinaceus, extract containing a minimum of 20% beta-glucan content. Lion's mane contains compounds called hericinones and erinacines that are the only known dietary compounds that cross the blood-nerve barrier and directly stimulate the production of nerve growth factor, NGF, in peripheral nerve tissue. NGF is the trophic factor that Schwann cells and axons require for maintenance, repair, and remyelination. In peripheral neuropathy, NGF production in affected nerve tissue is reduced, contributing to the inadequate repair response that allows neuropathy to progress. A randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial published in Biomedical Research found that lion's mane mushroom supplementation significantly improved cognitive and nerve function assessments compared to placebo, with the effect attributed to NGF stimulation. Animal model research specifically documenting accelerated peripheral nerve remyelination and functional recovery following lion's mane supplementation is consistent with the NGF mechanism. Here is exactly how Walter prepares the drink every morning. Walter wakes at 7 a.m. He has established the drink as his absolute first action. Before getting out of bed, he takes his methylcobalamin B12 sublingually, holding 1,000 micrograms under his tongue for 2 minutes before swallowing. The sublingual route bypasses the intrinsic factor-dependent absorption pathway that has declined in his aging stomach, delivering B12 directly through the oral mucosa into the bloodstream. This is critical for adults over 70. The majority of oral B12 supplements are not effectively absorbed because of reduced intrinsic factor and gastric acid. Sublingual administration removes this limitation. In the kitchen, he combines in a large glass 150 milliliters of cold-pressed beetroot juice. He purchases bottled cold-pressed beetroot juice, not pasteurized, not from concentrate, from a health food store. He shakes the bottle before measuring because the natural sediment contains the highest nitrate concentration. 600 milligrams of alpha-lipoic acid powder, dissolved directly in the beetroot juice with vigorous stirring for 30 seconds. ALA dissolves in the slightly acidic beetroot juice better than in plain water. He uses R-alpha-lipoic acid specifically, the biologically active isomer, rather than the racemic mixture sold in most supplements. R-ALA has approximately 4 times the biological activity per milligram of racemic ALA. 500 milligrams of lion's mane mushroom extract powder, dissolved in the mixture. The extract, standardized to heracinone content, is tasteless and dissolves completely. 1 B-complex capsule. He opens the capsule and stirs the powder into the drink rather than swallowing the capsule for faster absorption in the fasting stomach. He adds 1 additional element, a squeeze of fresh lemon juice. The vitamin C from the lemon regenerates alpha-lipoic acid after it has neutralized a reactive oxygen species, allowing each ALA molecule to perform multiple antioxidant cycles rather than being consumed after a single reaction. This effectively multiplies the antioxidant capacity of the 600 milligram ALA dose. He drinks the entire glass slowly over 8 minutes, on an empty stomach, before coffee, before breakfast. After drinking, Walter performs 20 minutes of brisk walking. This is not incidental to the protocol. Exercise increases endoneurial blood flow through the nitric oxide mechanism simultaneously with the dietary nitrate from the beetroot juice. The exercise-induced and dietary nitrate-induced nitric oxide signals compound each other. The combination produces endoneurial blood flow improvement significantly greater than either alone. Walter waits 30 minutes after the drink before eating breakfast. He has his coffee at the 30-minute point. Walter kept his diary with the methodical precision of someone who had been told for 4 years that improvement was not possible and who wanted evidence that he had been told incorrectly. Baseline, established over 5 days before starting. Sensation rating, he used a simple 5-point scale for each foot. 0, ear, no sensation. 1, ear, minimal. 2, ear, reduced. 3, ear, near normal. 4, ear, normal. Right foot, 1.2 average across 5 days. Left foot, 1.4. Walking balance, using a standard clinical balance assessment, he performed himself against a wall. Time standing on one leg. Right foot, 4.2 seconds. Left foot, 3.8 seconds. Normal for his age group is above 10 seconds. Days 1 through 5. No change in sensation ratings. Walter noted, expected per protocol. Methylcobalamin requires 5 to 7 days to accumulate to therapeutic tissue concentrations in Schwann cells. Alpha-lipoic acid requires similar accumulation time for peak mitochondrial antioxidant activity. Lion's mane, NGF induction is documented at 7 to 14 days. Continue. Day 6. Walter noted something he described as difficult to characterize, a change in the quality of the numbness rather than a reduction in it. He wrote, "The numbness in the left foot feels different today. Not less numb exactly. Different. A quality I can only describe as the numbness being less final, as if something underneath it is beginning to be present." He rated left foot sensation at 1.6. Day 7. Left foot 1.8. Walter noted, "There is tingling in the left foot this morning. Not the painful pins and needles of circulation being cut off. A different quality. A deep, diffuse tingling that feels like something waking up rather than complaining." He wrote, "I have not felt tingling in my left foot in approximately 14 months. This is the first sensation I have had in that foot that was not numbness. I sat and felt it for several minutes. Just felt it. Day 9. Right foot sensation 1.5, left foot 2.1. Walter performed the one-leg balance test. Right foot 6.3 seconds, left foot 5.8 seconds, both above his baseline. He noted, balance improving faster than expected. The proprioceptive improvement, the ability to sense position and adjust balance, was recovering as the endoneurial blood flow improvement and the early myelin repair began restoring the large fiber sensory nerve function that controls proprioception. Day 10. Walter walked to the corner store. A 6-minute walk each way that he had been avoiding for 8 months because the combination of foot numbness and the uneven pavement made him feel unsafe. He wore his ankle foot orthosis, the device he had been given for stability, but noted that the walk felt different from any walk he had taken in over a year. He wrote, "I could feel the pavement through my left foot. Not completely, partially, enough to know where my foot was. I have not had this information from my foot in more than a year." Day 14. Sensation ratings. Right foot 1.9, left foot 2.4. One leg balance, right 8.1 seconds, left 7.6 seconds. Approaching the lower end of normal range. Walter noted, "I touched the floor this morning with bare feet and felt the tile. Cool, smooth. I stood there and felt the floor. This sounds unremarkable. For someone who has not felt the floor in 4 years, it is the opposite of unremarkable." Day 17. Walter discontinued the ankle-foot orthosis for his morning walk. He walked 20 minutes without the device. No falls, no near falls. He noted his walking pace was faster than it had been for 2 years, because he could use his feet to provide balance feedback rather than relying exclusively on vision. Day 21. Neurologist appointment. Nerve conduction studies. His neurologist compared the results to the studies from 12 months prior. Sural nerve sensory nerve conduction velocity improved from 32 meters per second to 41 meters per second. The sural nerve is a pure sensory nerve providing sensation to the lateral foot and ankle, the area of Walter's most prominent numbness. Conduction velocity of 41 meters per second remains below normal. Above 40 is the lower normal threshold. Walter was just entering the normal range, but represents a 28% improvement from baseline. His neurologist reviewed the numbers. She reviewed them again. She said, "Your peripheral nerve function has measurably improved. This doesn't happen without intervention." "What did you change?" Walter told her. She reviewed the research he had brought. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "The alpha-lipoic acid I was aware of. The methylcobalamin. I have been recommending cyanocobalamin. The lion's mane is new to me. And the beetroot nitrate for endoneurial blood flow. I have not been thinking about this mechanism." She added, "I am going to change what I recommend, starting today. The medication that is silently depleting the B vitamins required for myelin synthesis, and that is taken daily by a significant proportion of adults over 70 with peripheral neuropathy who are simultaneously trying to address their nerve damage. Metformin, the first-line medication for type 2 diabetes management, taken by approximately 80 million people worldwide. Metformin's B12 depletion mechanism is well documented and has been in the clinical literature for over 2 decades. Metformin inhibits the calcium-dependent ileal membrane transporter that is responsible for the absorption of the B12 intrinsic factor complex from the small intestine. This is a specific dose-dependent effect. Higher doses of metformin produce greater B12 absorption inhibition. Long-term metformin users, those who have been taking the medication for 5 or more years, have B12 deficiency rates of 20 to 30%. The clinical consequence: adults with type 2 diabetes who develop peripheral neuropathy are, in a significant proportion of cases, experiencing neuropathy that is partly or substantially caused by the B12 deficiency that their diabetes medication is producing. The medication prescribed for the condition contributing to neuropathy is simultaneously producing a nutritional deficiency that causes independent neuropathy. Walter had been on metformin at 2,000 milligrams per day for 11 years. His serum B12 at his last standard annual check was 218 picomoles per liter, at the lower end of the reference range, flagged as within normal but not deficient. What was not measured, because it was not on the standard annual panel, was methylmalonic acid and homocysteine, the functional markers of B12 sufficiency at the tissue level. Elevated methylmalonic acid indicates B12 deficiency in cells, even when serum B12 appears normal. because serum B12 can be maintained in the low normal range by releasing B12 from liver stores while cellular B12 is inadequate. His methylmalonic acid, which I ordered specifically because of the metformin use, was 0.38 micromoles per liter. The upper normal limit is 0.28. He was functionally B12 deficient despite a low normal serum B12. His Schwann cells were not receiving adequate methylcobalamin for optimal myelin synthesis. His neuropathy was partly a metformin side effect that had been invisible to the standard monitoring. The sublingual methylcobalamin in the morning drink bypassed the intestinal absorption blockade that metformin was maintaining. Within the 21 days of the protocol, Walter's functional B12 status was restored, and the myelin synthesis that had been constrained by B12 deficiency was able to proceed. If you are on metformin, discuss B12 monitoring with your physician. Request methylmalonic acid and homocysteine as functional B12 markers, not just serum B12. Consider sublingual methylcobalamin, which bypasses the absorption inhibition, rather than oral B12 tablets, which are subject to the same transporter inhibition as dietary B12. Walter touched the tile floor with bare feet and felt it. Cool, smooth. 4 years of numbness. A medication producing the B12 deficiency that was suppressing the myelin synthesis his nerves needed for repair, invisible to standard monitoring. A neurologist who had told him improvement was not possible, and who, when she saw the nerve conduction improvement, changed what she recommends. The nerve function that the standard approach had written off as permanently lost was not permanently lost. It was constrained by correctable deficiencies, B12 depleted by metformin, antioxidant capacity inadequate for the oxidative stress in peripheral nerve tissue, endoneurial blood flow insufficient from reduced nitric oxide production, NGF production insufficient for adequate myelin repair. The morning drink addresses all four simultaneously: methylcobalamin sublingually for the B12 deficiency, alpha-lipoic acid for the oxidative stress, beetroot nitrate for the endoneurial blood flow, lion's mane for NGF stimulation. 21 days. Try this. Rate your foot sensation today from 0 to 4. 0 being no sensation, 4 being completely normal. Come back in 21 days with the new number. Bring the before and after to your neurologist. Leave a comment below right now. Tell me your age, which feet or legs are affected, how long the numbness has been present, and whether you are on metformin. I read every single comment. Everyone. Before I go, one request. Tell me your age and your number one health challenge. I read every comment. Everyone. Subscribe. Tomorrow I have something just as important. I will see you then.